The Christmas Truce of 1914, a story of peace and humanity. It was Christmas Eve, 1914, in the middle of a war that had stretched across many countries in Europe. Soldiers from different nations, many of them far from home, were huddled in muddy trenches, cold and tired. On one side of the battlefield were the British and French troops, and on the other side, just across the open land called No Man's Land, were the German soldiers. The war had been going on for months, and everyone missed their families, especially as Christmas drew near. The night was quiet, except for the cold wind and the occasional sounds of war in the distance. But something unexpected was about to happen, something that would remind the world of the true spirit of Christmas. As the British soldiers stood guard, they suddenly noticed something strange. Across the battlefield, on the German side, small lights began to appear. They looked like tiny flickering candles. The British soldiers squinted through the darkness and realized that the German soldiers were placing Christmas trees on the tops of their trenches, lighting them with candles. Soon after, a sound drifted through the cold night air. It was faint at first, but then it grew louder. The British soldiers couldn't believe their ears. The German soldiers were singing a Christmas carol, Stille Nacht, or as it's known in English, Silent Night. For a moment, the British soldiers listened in awe. The song was peaceful and beautiful, a sharp contrast to the noise of war they were used to hearing. Then, one of the British soldiers began to sing along, this time in English. Soon, more soldiers joined in, and both sides were singing the same song, but in different languages, united by the spirit of Christmas. As the night continued, something even more amazing happened. A few brave German soldiers climbed out of their trenches, holding up their hands to show they didn't want to fight. The British soldiers were cautious at first, but they realized the Germans meant no harm. Slowly, soldiers from both sides began to leave their trenches, walking toward each other across No Man's Land, the open space that had separated them during the fighting. There, in the middle of the battlefield, these soldiers, who had been enemies just hours before, began to shake hands, exchange smiles, and wish each other a Merry Christmas. They shared small gifts, like chocolate, tobacco, and even buttons from their uniforms. Some soldiers showed photos of their families, and for a little while, it was as if the war had disappeared, and they were just ordinary men celebrating Christmas together. As the night went on, the soldiers talked and even played a game of football, or soccer as it's called in some places, on the frozen ground. Laughter filled the air, and for a few precious hours, the soldiers forgot about the war. They were simply people, brought together by the magic of Christmas. In the morning, Christmas Day, the soldiers continued their unofficial truce. They helped each other bury the fallen, showing respect and kindness even in the midst of war. The commanders on both sides eventually ordered the soldiers to return to their trenches and continue the fighting, but the memory of that Christmas stayed with them forever. The Christmas Truce of 1914 was a brief, shining moment in history when peace and goodwill overcame the violence of war. It reminded everyone that no matter where they came from or what side they were on, they were all human, and Christmas was a time for love, hope, and unity. Today, people remember the Christmas truce as a symbol of what is possible, even in the darkest times. It showed that even in the midst of conflict, the spirit of Christmas can bring people together. So, when you think of Christmas, remember the soldiers who, for one magical night, laid down their weapons and shared in the joy of the season. It's a story that teaches us the true meaning of Christmas, peace on earth and goodwill toward all.